It seems to me as if the whole design thinking trend of human-centered innovation now finally also hit the financial industry, though one should have thought that this already happened earlier, but nonetheless, we thought it's pretty worth it to discuss it here today, the human-centered banking. And I think this should be at the core of banking, but still there's room for exploration. And this panel that we are going to hear here right now will be moderated by Christian Miele. Christian is a venture capitalist and he just joined in 2015 E.Ventures. E.Ventures have a nice portfolio, for example, Asimo, a low-cost, fast and safe way to send money around the world, and Nibo, a Brazilian SME finance tracking tool. So he really knows what he's doing, and I'm now looking forward to hear him conducting the discussion. Christian, the stage is yours.
So, thank you very much for having me today. As Ole just said, I'm Christian. I'm a vice president with the global VC firm E.Ventures, and I'm delighted to have such a nice audience here today and actually be talking about human-centered banking. And I'm even more delighted to actually introduce the panelists for today. We have amazing three founders on stage, and I would like to welcome. And now, that's the interesting thing. I think I have the three most difficult names to pronounce, but I've actually learned them before. Shahar Bialik, Lamin Chaloufi, and Ramin Niruman. So, Ramin is the founder and managing director of Finleap, the Berlin-based fintech company builder. Shahar is the founder and managing director of Curve, one of the promising UK fintech startups at the moment. And Lamin, probably the most hyped and mysterious startup in Berlin right now, founder and managing director of Cookies. So please give it up for the team. Okay, so human-centered banking, the title itself implies that maybe there's something wrong with the traditional world of banking, because otherwise we wouldn't even have a discussion about the human being in the center. Ramin, having 8 ventures in the Finleap portfolio, what does it mean for you if we're talking about the user being in the center of innovation?
Thanks, Christian. So when we started Finleap 2 years ago, the reason why we thought we need to start several businesses, because this industry really needed a change. We really need to reshape something in an industry which actually I really love, because it's the only industry which can be 100% digitalized. It's an information industry, and no one really understands, and at least not the customer understands, why you still have to fill out paper by opening a bank account, but just a technical product and just an information product. So we thought it's the right time for changing it on different ways, and being that the human who is a MD of a business, so B2B, needs a lot of improvement, but also the C customers. That is why we started doing Finleap.
I think one of the interesting things that you bring up here is that user experience might be something that drives banking nowadays, and we have some. Lamin, you basically having done nothing else but user experience in a very sophisticated way in the past, being the one leading the product management of Number 26, and now basically creating Cookies, an innovative way how to execute P2P payments. How do you see the actual value of user experience in the overall frame of the state of banking right now?
So, yeah, it's on. So, regarding user experience, I think it's by far the most important thing if you really want to onboard a customer to actually use your financial service. And user experience, however, doesn't mean that you just have a nice user interface and you have some nice animations there. But the entire focus of user experience actually is centered around the fact of making process innovation and making sure that you solve a problem better than anybody else. And this is what we try to do every day. We try it with other companies that we worked for, as well as with Cookies. And solving a problem in the right manner takes a lot of research and a lot of understanding of the user and the user needs and the user's wants. So.
But why is the traditional banking industry not capable of solving the product, and why do they not get back to what banking basically meant in the past, like being a trustworthy partner taking care of your money? So what's the very, very heavy issue that they're facing here?
So what we see here is a trend that a lot of banks actually just add features on top of features on top of features without creating real value. And like one thing that we are very dedicated to is focusing and removing all the clutter, all the things that are not necessarily for a user to solve this one specific problem. And we have the feeling that some banks try too hard to ship innovation with all their undergoings, as in like creating innovation labs, innovation centers, which is something very great to do to get some new ideas on board, etc. But the core of the experience of the user always needs to be as simple as possible. And this has it has a great impact on the psychology of the user, which is something that is not really understandable by a lot of people. So one thing that we try to do, we try to remove everything that is actually making you think about how to use a product. A product needs to be intuitive, and if you look at the psychology of a user, you have a cognitive load, as in him understanding information, him retrieving information at a time. And what I think is a good way to go about this is to build on top of existing infrastructures and existing systems and tools that we've been using over years and years, such as emojis, such as text, etc., and creating a great context while doing so, and then solving the problem better than everybody else.
Okay, you talked about creating value for a user. Shahar, when I went through Curve and actually looked it up, I thought, okay, that's really interesting. You're helping me to keep my wallet slim. I can integrate my credit card. I can integrate my debit card. I can keep my rewards. I can add up actually more premium to it. Why do you believe that the old incumbents and the existing players in the market will even allow you to go down this route? It sounds like a dead end. How do you think about that?
So it's indeed a great question. The incumbents and the other fintech players, they're doing a great job in what they do. If it's TransferWise to move money around, if it's my bank to deposit and save my money and give me various investment vehicles or saving vehicles or credits. And they will keep doing this job very well. Those incumbents and any other new fintech players from the fintech revolution that we've been experiencing for the past 10 years, they all have the same problem. Acquiring users. And to acquire users, you have to have data and you need to know where they are. Now, some users are using HSBC as a bank, some other users using Deloitte as a bank in the UK or number 26 in Germany if they're early adopters. But in a sense, I'm using also my Amex and I'm using JCB or I'm using any bank from Israel where I'm from originally. And so my data is being fragmented across various industries. So there is no one entity that can connect me and cross-sell me other services. So I have to be that entity that manage all these services. So the way the future goes, and we can see it with the new regulations of PSD2 coming January 2018, with the disintermediation of the sector in Europe, and this will be the end result. 5, 10, 15 years from now, maybe it will be with Curve, maybe it will be with Apple Pay, maybe it will be with a new player we don't even know. Eventually there will be a platform that will connect all the incumbents and all the fintech players to a user, and with user permission, the data package will be sent to all those incumbents, and they will be able to cross-sell. So you'll be able to get the best credit for you, not because someone killed his margins, just because he knows how to deploy cash better for your specific risk taste. And whether it's going to be HSBC or Lendify, it doesn't matter. What matters is what the user will get eventually, and how those incumbents and players can onboard their services on top.
Just to jump in there, sorry for stealing your job. Following your argument that TransferWise is doing a good job, but on the same time we're saying, oh, there will be one front end in the future. TransferWise is actually not doing a great job. TransferWise, the only great job they do, and that's why they may be human-centered, they're bringing transparency to a market which was not transparent. But TransferWise, I believe, they will not survive if they stay this just transparent front end, which they are today.
I completely agree here, and this is exactly the point, right? If you look at the past 10 years and look at all the fintech revolution, companies that E.Ventures are investing in, there's, as a user, and I'm a sophisticated fintech user, everyone here knows about those fintech companies, it's competition, it's inspiration we take from them, and those, I don't know them. I don't know how to access them. I don't really understand some of their value propositions. So eventually, if they won't find a way to access those users, they will wither, as you said, right? The power of the bank, aside from the depositing and leveraging mandate that he got from the government, it's accessibility. as a user, I'm going to my bank and I can move money around with a phone call or just log into my bank account. And this accessibility is unique that TransferWise doesn't have. And this is where those platforms that connects you to everything money will come into play. TransferWise will connect, as an example, to this platform.
But you don't need TransferWise if you have the platform WeChat, and then if you have Barclays card, who do the clearing today, who needs TransferWise?
So even let's say that Barclay hired Lamin here, right?
Yeah.
And it developed an app which is so good, it's 50 years advanced. This is how good the app is. You just think and it happens, right? Does it still solve all my use cases? No, because I still have my Amex, I still have my business account, I still have my Israeli account, I still have my PayPal account. Everything is fragmented in the space. It cannot be one bank provider that will provide you the services. It has to be an agnostic platform. Apple Pay maybe.
But I think the interesting question here is like, will I really be able to create an aggregation layer that is basically bundling everything again that was there in the past? Or is it really about creating value, which is something where banking comes from, right? Like in the very past, when I was trying to actually have my money being stored in a safe way somewhere, I would give it to someone who would take care of that, and I would trust my bank. This is not existing today anymore. So what is it in the future? Is it making a better user experience by having a nice front end, or is it really about creating a product that captures the user by having a great value proposition that actually keeps retention up, right?
Yeah. So if I may start answering this question. So what we truly believe in is that the race for this entire fintech world, it's about creating a product that creates a lot of value for the user first, but then at the end we are always spinning around one topic, and this topic's identity. So the one company or the one product that holds the identity of a user that can then plug in into the various platforms, if it's a WeChat, if it's a PayPal, if it's a whatever, is the one that is kind of that is the one that is actually winning the battle over fintech and over the entire banking industry. And what banks have right now, they have a lot of users that are using their products, and they have created a really great brand that people actually trust to. But at the end of the day, like, user experience and solving a problem better than anybody else is always the first step to actually creating a true innovation. And after this has been solved, and if someone is capable to wrap this around an identity that you can then plug in into data-driven companies like WeChat and all of these ones, this is the way to go.
Okay, but who's going to be the winner then in these kind of developments? Are you building a product in the P2P payment space bottom up, or is it Deutsche Bank, Michael Koch standing up on stage telling about the app? So what's going to happen?
Yeah. One thing I would like to add on this, like the fintech product that will actually be the one that's going to survive is the one that not only creates value, but that creates frequency usage. And this is by far the most important thing. So just imagine that you open your banking app twice or 3 or 4 times a day. Then all of a sudden you're creating a behavioral pattern, and this behavioral pattern will be used for everything that it's bundled around your finances. And this is what we think is one of the most interesting things. So in the example of Curve, every time I use my Curve card, I will get a notification, and this notification is on my phone, and then I open it, and all of a sudden I'm in the system again, I'm in the loop again, I'm using the product more frequent and more frequent. And if you wrap all of these things around identity, this is what we truly believe in that can push innovation forward.
Like one more question going a bit deeper here, like creating this experience layer on top of existing financial services. Ramin, you guys have just launched Solaris Bank, basically having your own banking license, and now by that eating the last piece of meat of the bone of the banks. Like what is going to happen now in this rebundling process? Will it enable startups like Curve and Cookies to actually even think broader and develop products that go beyond the niche that they're working in right now?
Definitely. So when we started Solaris, we thought, okay, if you want to make a true innovation, you cannot just talk about the better UX, the better UI, because this is a front end. Other people will solve. Facebook, WeChat, Alibaba, all those guys are a lot stronger when it comes to building front end, getting customers. They're having the money to spend the customers. When we built Solaris, we believed if you're doing fintech, and fintech for us is not a known industry, it's just a part in the finance industry, which is more technology-driven than other parts. But when you're doing innovation, technology innovation, you also need to go to the core. You need to actually innovate banking products. And you know what? Why is Deutsche Bank competing with us on front ends? They can buy it from a great agency, they can buy it from Lamina. They should compete on banking products. Where is the banking product innovation? From Deutsche Bank. And our business model, Savedo, works. Why? because the banking product is also a good banking product. Customers were aware of getting a product which they couldn't be accessed before. Not only the UX and the UI is better, also the access to the real product. The product was not consumed before.
And also access to new distribution channels that banks have maybe not understood, right? Like I think that one of the great advantages that all of you guys have is that you probably saw the value in, for example, distributing your financial services towards through social media. What banks, traditional banks, might not be doing in the extent that you guys are doing it, right? But isn't that something that will limit you in a certain amount of time, because it will not take 2 or 3 more years until Deutsche Bank understands how to advertise via Instagram, for example?
There's been a few conferences in the past few weeks, started in Copenhagen, here today, and obviously in the space we're speaking with a lot of fintech entrepreneurs and investors, and you see an inflection point that happens, which didn't happen before. First, everyone talks about partnerships. The big incumbents and the small players, be it TransferWise or be it Deutsche Bank or Lloyds, they're all talking about partnerships. And the second thing is what Lamina just mentioned, and number 26 are talking about, Curve and other very, very smart entrepreneurs are about rebundling the space, connecting everything together. It's been unbundled, the bank service has been unbundled into new services, new fintech companies, and now there's a rebundling approach. And to your question, if it's going to be only one, no, there won't be only one. There's going to be many players that rebundle. Each one does different ways. Number 26 of their kinds are imitating the way the bank evolved from deposits. They own your wallet, moving into peer-to-peer money, moving into Forex and so forth. And Curve, which says, your bank is doing a great job saving your money. You have all these great services like cookies, allow you to move money around in a great UX. All we're doing, we're just connecting you to everyone, and we owning the data network effect, providing it to all the rest.
But at the end of the day, will the network effect be the only defensible thing in a business model like yours?
So the data network effect, just for a second, the data network effect, we knew it's going to happen, right? The data network effect is in a sense, if a company like Curve, for example, is doing a KYC on a user, I'm seeing where he spends his money from all his accounts and all his cards worldwide. Who is sitting and paying where, and where he sits with the permission of the user to move this into American Express, for example, because it doesn't have an American Express on his card. With a click of a button, a new card specifically to your needs can come into your wallet, and you can see that everywhere, and the new card being shipped for him 2 days later, and you don't have to do application, you don't have to do KYC, right? The new bank that Raymond created, the new innovation on products, you can connect it and cross-sell that into users with a click of a button. He has all the data, he knows how to innovate and deploy the cash and the risk that he knows how to do well, and the user will get it.
The good thing is I have to legally own every customer.
Sorry?
I have to legally, by law, I have to own every customer relation. And I think that's an advantage which Solaris Bank has, because then they actually can cross-sell. And a bank, even after the financial crisis, even after Panama Papers, personally I don't understand it, but they're still the trusted brands ever. So, but maybe because they're so heavily regulated, and if you have this one ID within the bank, yes, maybe we have different customer faces, and you can really compare it to the e-commerce. If it goes regarding general products, there will be one Amazon, maybe Alibaba, maybe there will be 3 to 4 players. And then you have those special angles, like if you want to shop IKEA, you can just shop IKEA on the IKEA e-commerce website. I think that's probably the same which will happen in banking, but it doesn't matter if you shop on IKEA or on Amazon, you pay with this one bank account or this one Visa credit card, and it's actually a war regarding the ID, regarding the account.
So yeah, so one thing to quickly add up to this war of the IDs. So one thing that we try to do at Cookies, so Cookies, for instance, it works on top of your existing banks. So you can add any bank that you want, and you can add as many banks as you want. But one thing that we're particularly paying a lot of focus on, or like working very hard on, is to create a username, as in an entity that can be used on different platforms. So the username that you have with Cookies withholds all your financial information if you want it to, and if you let it, and if you accept it, and if you allow it, obviously. But I think if you allow such network effects, I mean, like plugging in a username into Curve or into Solaris Bank, etc., is like it's the way to go, because it's very easy for everybody. You understand it immediately how to use it, and the war for identities has begun or is ongoing right now, and it's just very interesting to see who will actually prevail at the end of the day, because he will own them legally. We will own them economically, from an economic perspective, but identity is by far the most important thing here. And if it works on top of everything...
But the identity naturally comes with the depth and the value of the information that some individual is providing. So the complexity obviously increases by getting more access to data, because a user will not provide the right information if he does not feel that there is a great value proposition for the product, right? So I totally get the point that you're saying that it creates a lot of network effects in the future and a lot of stickiness with the product if you have the right amount of data, because you can provide additional services. That is what every big platform is doing in the world. But now for me as a VC, like I think that if you're trying to ship a product and it takes 12 months in order to get a license done or something, and you're just burning money until this point, it's something that makes this business model less likely to be invested and a little bit unattractive at the, in this kind of market cycle we are in right now. So do you see that this is a conflict, that some of you are basically riding and surfing these waves without having access to the regulatory environment and having these licenses that you might need in order to get to the full picture of customer information that you will need to build great products?
I have the solution for you as an investor. You just
Go
invest.
for Solaris Bank, huh?
No. That would be too easy. Invest in an ecosystem. So when we build our portfolio, it's quite strategic build. We have the bank, we have certain specialized lines for lending, we have saving products, we have everything there, and then we see the white spots and we can connect the portfolio later on if we want to, or we can merge it with other players in the market, on the market. So you're taking out, if you're agreeing on the market is changing, why not investing in an ecosystem? It's a little bit more risk saving for you.
But are you saying that Finleap is building a bank by itself and having all these different departments as verticals in the value chain?
No, not the department. It's exactly what the guys were saying. We having a look on the ecosystem. Obviously, we don't complete ourselves completely, but at least we know, okay, if I want to have a peer-to-peer app, I don't need to go and build my peer-to-peer app themselves. I just go to Lamina or the other guys who are building peer-to-peer apps, and I choose working with the best peer-to-peer app. But having a view on the completely ecosystem really helps you to see where the interconnections are needed, which APIs are needed, where's the product innovation, where's the user face innovation. Actually, I'm happy with just building banking products. I don't need to own the user interface in the end. As I said before, I don't believe in that. And maybe Lamina is the better UX designer and the better understanding the customers. But if we can work together in an ecosystem, that is actually what Finleap believes.
Okay, like speaking of the user experience now, like let's get a bit more into detail. Like, how are you guys thinking about user experience? Like, what is it that creates this stickiness with the product, and what are you doing in order to make your products great? Like, cookies, the big myth in Berlin right now. Like, so what is the magic behind what you're doing?
So the magic behind cookies is that first of all, we solve a problem better than anybody else. This is what we truly believe in, and as I said earlier, like at the end of the day, everything spins around the two topics: identity and frequency. And like there are very easy and simple tricks to actually increase frequency usage of a product massively. I'm not going to go into detail. You're going to have to wait, unfortunately, until we launch the product. But if you can actually manage that, again, like you create a behavioral pattern for the user, so that every time he thinks about his finances, he's like, oh, okay, cookies, and he just taps on it because it's behavioral pattern. And again, this happens by having simple tricks. A simple trick in the case of Curve is sending notification every time you use the card. But then when you access the app, it creates a lot of value again because it adds some meta information to a payment. And this is something that is insanely important for every user that wants to actually know in a transparent manner what is happening with his finances. Because let's face it, everybody, like we live in a time where there's basically an app for everything. We have 10 apps for banking, or we have 2 apps or 3 apps for communication, etc. But it's insanely complicated to have an overview of every action that is happening at every different app.
But how do you know you will do it better? Like there's a lot of apps out there actually dealing with P2P kind of products and trying to make it easier to transfer money from A to B. And it should be easy as like I'm giving whatever a buck to Ramin right now. So what is it that you're doing better than everyone else?
Well, so our main focus is on working on top of existing infrastructure. You will never see any IBANs or BICs in our product, nor TANs. It works on top of your address book, which means you can pay on your telephone number or on your email address. And if you don't have none of them, you can pay by username, which is extremely handy if you need to pay somebody that you don't really know, but you just need to make this transaction this one time. And aside of that, we have actual true innovation in our product. So a transaction always happens from bank account to bank account. We're not a classical e-wallet like most of the players that are out there, and they're transferring virtual money, which means they're simply updating a balance sheet, plus 50, minus 50, or however they're actually doing it. So the transaction with us also takes a few moments and not an entire day or 2 days or 3 days. And then we engage obviously the frequency usage by using a lot of elements of gamification in the product as well, that just make you kind of want to use the product because the product is cool to use and it's fun to use. So this is the big differentiation. Peer-to-peer payments is not just about me sending money to you, it's about creating stories, creating value, and using actual payments as a means of communication. Because if you take a look at the German society, what is happening today, nobody is really fond of talking about money to their friends. Just ask your best friend what you earn. Like, he will probably not tell you, or it's going to be an awkward situation. Or if you actually ask your friend those 20, 30, 40, 50 euros back from a few days ago, it's the same thing. And if you can build a system that is actually taking this clutter away and this communicational errors and misbehavior from your friends, then this is something that is actually shipping true innovation, and this is what Cookies does.
Okay, and Shahar, like, coming from the payment side, like I believe in order to be really successful in this space, you're just basically need to become the standard and the default provider of a product like Curve, in Europe at least. How are you going to make sure that you can ship something like you from the UK across all these different cultural markets that we have in the European Union?
Yeah, it's a good question as well. So when we first launched Incepted Curve, one of the main things we wanted to make sure is that it has to work everywhere, across the board. And there's only 2 networks in the world today, the most sophisticated financial networks in the world. You use them more than you use your plug of electricity in your house, is MasterCard and Visa, which are both very innovative companies from everything you can see, as like 3M and PayPal itself. So we had to pick up network that can actually innovate with us and move fast, that works everywhere, even here in Germany or the Philippines or in a small island in Thailand. The second thing, when we've done that, there's this friction in infrastructure, but another friction point is behavior. We cannot change users' behavior. He has to keep using exactly the same thing he's used before. So the way Curve works, it looks like a card, but everything in it doesn't smell like a card. It's a gadget. It's an extension of your phone. It's a proxy. You keep using your own cards, your own brands, your own debit card from Barclays, your own American Express. But when you use it, you just, instead of using it with your phone like Apple Pay, you use it with a card, an extension that works everywhere.
But does it mean that you expect all users behaving the same way across the European Union? Because I think that this is maybe one of the problems that the old banks are basically dealing with, that they think every user is the same.
So indeed. So we have to start, I'm going to the previous question, and that's to answer your question. You have to start with a unique value proposition for the user. So first, how do you explain the car to horse riders, right? Because we're not developing a better bank, we're building the car. And everyone's riding horses right now. So it's impossible. We couldn't find the 1,000 songs in your pocket, but we didn't have to, because the value proposition that Curve provides are very easy. They're low-hanging fruits. You never pay FX. Everyone travels, don't want to pay FX anymore. That's it. We eliminate FX fees. You can see all your transactions in one place with real-time notification. Perfect. From all my accounts, even my Amex. Right? I'm still using my own cards and everything now consolidated. And the next step would be, I want to buy this TV for 500 euros. Instead of buying it 500 euros with my credit card, I can buy it with 5 installments. So we start to introduce models like a firm or a credit line or an overdraft or peer-to-peer payments or moving money around with FX. Once you start, there's 2 ways to go around that in a sense. There's the deposit way, like number 26, and there's through the spending way. Users, and we talked about frequency, it's easier to move on spending. You're spending your money every day, twice a day, using your cards most of the places of the world. Less in Germany, as we can see, but in most of the world.
When I want to sum up both of the comments, frequency or at the same time identity, I think in the end what you need and what will you see is you need a stable base and by empowering agile growth. So what I mean is you need either the ID stable or the company being stable, but then you also need to empower people to build on top of it, quite agile. We just had the discussion in the speaker lounge that, I mean, WhatsApp is old. Today, Snapchat, I don't even understand it, you do, and thanks for explanation. But what is it tomorrow? Yeah, and as a bank or any financial service player, you need to integrate in those platforms. And this you cannot do everything by your own. And that's why when you compare, is Finleap building a bank? No, we're not. We're looking at the ecosystem, but we have our agile teams who are building own focused companies, and then they can build on top of a stable ground. And so everyone is invited to build in this ecosystem, and you just need to see where your part is. Is it the stable ground, or is it the agile infrastructure and the agile front end? I think you can't do both.
I would like to jump in here and actually use the remaining 2 minutes. Maybe there's a question in the audience, otherwise I will just continue asking some questions and letting the guys sum it up. But if there's anyone who wants to ask a question, please feel free. I think it's a rare opportunity to ask 3 fantastic entrepreneurs how they think about human-centered banking.
Don't be shy.
Anyone? Yes. I think you have to speak up very loudly because the people are talking everywhere.
I'd like to know why you chose peer-to-peer payment as the core of cookies.
So peer-to-peer payments actually combines very, very interesting things. So the first thing being it's real money that's being transferred, so it's actual value that's being transferred between friends, and it's real friends. So, and if you combine those two things, and at the end of the day, we are a small social network, if you put it like this. So basically what we empower people to communicate, to use cookies as a means of communication while creating value on the fly, and as easy as possible. And for us, when we decided to build cookies, we wanted to build a system that is first of all accessible to everybody, so everybody can use it if you're 16, 18, or if you're 45 or 60 years old. It's a system that is very, very simple to use, and we wanted to build a frequent using system. And peer-to-peer is by far the definition of this, because how many times per day or per week are you actually spending money, and how many times is this happening in a social context? Some people may argue, yeah, this is not happening as often because Germany has a different society thinking about this, but we truly believe if you give them the right tools to do so, we can create a platform and a system that will be used as often as necessary by the user. And again, it's not one user, or we are not thinking like all users are the same. Every user has a different pattern. And what we try to do, we try to build the tools for them to be able to exchange value in an instant.
So let me be very German here. We have 20 seconds left. I want to thank you, my panel, and I think that everybody of you can ask them questions if you want after this. We will be running around. I think you guys will all stick around for at least a couple of more minutes. So please feel free to ask them and give up your hands for the guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Christian.
Thank you.